here are the skills you'll need for today's tutorial. I won't be going in depth, but they're very simple and should be beginner friendly. As for the materials, you'll need an 8mm crochet hook, and I use about 285 grams of this big twist yarn in weight 6 or super bulky, so please make sure that yours is the same kind as mine. You'll also need a pair of scissors, 5 stitch markers, and some sort of stuffing. You can use actual stuffing. I used fake snow, so if you don't have anything like that, scrap yarn will do just fine as well. To start, you're going to make a slip knot and attach it to your hook. Then make 20 chains. So once you've completed your 20 chains, we're actually going to attach the two ends together. So find the first chain that you made and insert your hook into that chain. And then you're going to make a slip stitch by yarning over, pulling through both loops on your hook. And now we have a circle for the inside of our flower. To start our first round, you're going to chain 1, and we're going to chain 1 at the beginning of every row. And you're going to make a single crochet in the adjacent chain, and you're going to mark that stitch with a stitch marker, and this might not seem necessary, but it's very helpful later on. So mark that first stitch. In the second chain, you're going to do an increase, which means to do 2 single crochets in a single chain. In the next chain, you're just going to do a regular single crochet. And in the next, you're going to do an increase. And you're basically going to repeat this sequence of 1 single crochet and 1 increase until you reach the end of your chain. The last thing you do in this row should be an increase, and so once you finish, you're going to attach the row together. So take out your stitch marker, and into that marked stitch, you're going to do a slip stitch, and that is round 1 all finished. To start round 2, you're going to chain 1, and into the first stitch, you're going to do a single crochet, and then mark that stitch with a stitch marker. Into the next stitch, you're going to do a regular single crochet. In the third stitch, you're going to do an increase. Again, you're going to do 2 single crochets, and then 1 increase. And you're going to repeat this whole sequence of 2 single crochets and 1 increase until you reach the beginning. Now you're going to take out your stitch marker to attach the row together and slip stitch into the first stitch of your row. To start our round 3, you're going to chain 1 and single crochet and attach your stitch marker. Now we did our first single crochet, you're going to do 2 more single crochets for a total of 3. And into that fourth stitch, you're going to increase. And just like before, you're going to repeat the sequence of 3 single crochet, 1 increase until you reach the beginning. You know the drill here. You're going to take out your stitch marker and connect your row together. And to start our 5th row, you're going to chain 1, do a single crochet, and attach your stitch marker. And you're going to do 3 more single crochets for a total of 4. And then on that 5th stitch, you're going to do an increase. And you're going to repeat this pattern of 4 single crochets, 1 increase until you reach the beginning once again. Once you're done, you're going to connect the round together, and this is going to be our final round before we start our petals. So you're going to start our 5th round with a single crochet, and we're going to do a total of 5 single crochets. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. And into the 6th stitch, you're going to do an increase. So you're going to repeat this pattern of 5 single crochets, 1 increase until you reach the beginning. Now you can join your work together with a slip stitch, and we actually won't be needing this stitch marker until later, so you can put it to the side. And you're going to chain 1. And now we finished the base of our flower, and from this point forward we're actually going to do our 5 petals. Super cute, and I personally find this process the most fun. So go back to your work and you're going to do 13 single crochets to start your first petal. Once you're done, you can chain 1 and turn your work to the other side. To start row 2, you're going to do a decrease single crochet, and I won't be going in depth in this tutorial, but there are amazing videos on YouTube that you can reference. So you're just going to do 1 of these decreased single crochets, and then you're going to do 11 single crochets after that. Once you finish your 11 single crochets, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. To start row 3, you're going to do another decreased single crochet in the beginning, and then do 8 single crochets. You should have 2 stitches remaining, and into those 2 stitches you're going to do a decrease single crochet. Now chain 1 and turn your work. To start row 4, you will do a decrease single crochet, and then do 8 regular single crochets. Chain 1 and turn your work. For row 5, start with a decrease, then you're going to do 5 single crochets, and then into the last 2 remaining stitches you will do a decrease single crochet. Chain 1, this is our second to last row. You're going to start with a decrease in the first 2 stitches, do 1 single crochet, and there should be 4 stitches left. In the first 2 you do a decrease, and then 1 more decrease in the last 2 stitches. And chain 1. And for our final row for the petal, you're just going to do 2 decrease stitches and 1 for each of the 2 pairs. Now chain 1 and fasten off. Before you continue, there's something very important to know, which is that in between every petal we're going to have one empty stitch, which means that we're just going to count one stitch and leave it alone before we start the next petal. And hopefully the demonstration makes sense. And so we have our petal here, and just locate where the last stitch is right here. Just count one stitch to the left, and then one more, and that's where you're going to start. So you're just going to skip that one stitch and put your hook through that stitch to mark it. And to start a new petal, you're just going to make a slip knot and feed it through your work. And as you can see, we're going to have just this one empty stitch in the middle of our two petals. And I know it's kind of annoying that I keep repeating this, but it's very important for you to remember. And so you're going to chain one and start crocheting on the exact place where you just fed your yarn, and that's going to count as your first single crochet. And you're going to do the 13 single crochets that start the petal and so forth. And if you have a tail from the yarn that you just fed through, like this, I really recommend crocheting with the yarn kind of in between your stitches, and this helps so that it's kind of invisible like this later on. And so you're just going to keep repeating this until you have 5 petals total, and don't forget to leave that one stitch in the middle. And once you're finished with this step, you're going to repeat the entire process once again to create another panel. Now to connect the two panels together, you're actually going to look for the right side, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically the side with the middle hole that's kind of sticking out like this, instead of on the right side where it's kind of sticking inward like this. So you're going to sandwich the wrong sides together so that the right sides are facing the outside. In simpler words, you're just going to make sure that the prettier side is facing the outside, and you're going to line up the petals together like this. From this point onward, you're going to need your 5 stitch markers, and you're going to locate on the top, there's going to be 2 single crochets for the last row of each petal, and you're going to take your stitch marker and mark the rightmost stitch of both panels and kind of connect them together like this, and this helps to create a guideline and keep them in place as we sew along the sides. So you're just going to repeat this for every side of the flower. So we're going to start by connecting a portion of the sides together and then move on to the middle circle here and then finish off with our stuffing. And so you're going to locate one stitch marker, doesn't matter which one, take it out, and as you can see there should be 2 stitches, and we're going to start with the rightmost stitch. So take your crochet hook and put it through both panels like this, and then you're going to take your yarn and of course you're going to make a slip knot and feed it through your hook, and you're just going to loop it through both panels. And I would take the tails and put them toward the inside of your work, and you're basically just going to slip stitch along the edges of both panels, and this is basically the simplest way to connect our panels together. And I recommend trying to stay on the outermost portion of the panels possible, but try not to leave any open spaces as you go along. And once you get to the edge, you're just going to continue up the other side of the second petal. And once you reach the next stitch marker, it's basically the same exact process. You're just going to take it out and then tuck the tails inside your work. And then you're just going to continue slip stitching along the sides of your project. And once you get to this point, your project should look like this, and you're actually going to stop here, and you're just going to chain one and fasten off. And this is because we're moving on to the inside of the circle right here. Now rotate your work so that the sides that you already attached is facing you. And you're going to lift up your work like this. And we're just going to work slip stitches once again along the circle. And this time it should be easier because you have actual stitches that you can line up. But you want to be careful that you do not miss any chains. And so you're going to make a slip knot and feed it through your hook. And you can tuck in the tails to the inside. And you're basically just going to slip stitch into each stitch of the panels, and you're going to keep going until you reach the beginning. And once you're finished, make sure that there are no gaps, and once you do so, you can chain one and fasten off. Now we're going to pick up where we just left off on our main panel, so locate where we just fastened off and feed in your yarn with a slip knot. So you're just going to continue slip stitching along the edges of your two panels until you reach your last stitch marker, and I will meet you in the next clip. So this is what your work should look like. You should have two petals with sides that are missing, and we're basically going to start stuffing our pillow here. So you can extend your yarn like this, take your hook out, and you're going to take whatever stuffing you're going to use, whether it's scrap yarn or regular stuffing, and so you're just going to stuff the pillow in very small chunks and be very generous with the stuffing. Make sure that it is dense but not enough so that it is coming out the seams of your pillow. I would highly recommend leaving the two petals with the open seams not completely stuffed so that we can stuff them as we go, and it's not as big of a pain if it is completely stuffed. And so take your hook and put it back into the loop, and you can tuck in your tails like so, and just continue stitching along these sides, and you may have to be a bit more careful with the stuffing there. Once you reach this edge here, you can take your stuffing and fill up the petal that you just finished, and then you can continue stitching up the sides, and when you're very close to the end, you can stuff the last petal a bit more, and you can chain one and fasten off when you are ultimately finished. And if you have any lingering loose ends, you can take your hook and put it through your panel like this and kind of feed it through the inside of your work. And that should be good enough to tuck it to the inside of your work. And you're done! I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Please like, subscribe, and follow my new crochet Instagram linked in bio.